Welcome back. This is Dr. Tom. I'm board certified in addiction medicine and family medicine, and I practiced in East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia now for over 30 years. I'm also a person in long-term recovery from polysubstance abuse, opiate use disorder, and I have 21 years in the program. So in your brain, you've got opiate receptors, and your brain actually makes its own morphine. It's called endogenous morphine or endorphin. And that endorphin fits perfectly in these mu-opioid receptors and sends a signal to your body and your brain that you feel okay. Now, normal people out there, earth people walking around, they have about 50% of these receptors filled at any one time, and they just feel normal. Addicts don't ever feel normal. We always hurt, we always ache, we don't like crowds, we're not comfortable in our own skin until we take our first opiate, we take our first oxy, and then we're ready to go dancing. Normal person, they take a narcotic, they go home, and they go to bed. An addict, you take an oxy, you go home and you clean the garage. You feel normal. So, opiates work, they make you feel better until they don't. Then you're having to do ugly things to get drugs, and then you're stealing from your family, and you hit the bottom. And along the way, somebody gives you a drug called Suboxone. Suboxone is made up of two drugs. It's made up of buprenorphine plus naloxone. It's a combination. The reason the naloxone is in the combination of Suboxone is so that you can't chop it up and shoot it into your arm. If you do that, you're shooting Narcan into your arm, and it makes you really sick. Now, naloxone by itself, that's the rescue drug. So if you're walking down the street, you find somebody overdosed, they got a needle hanging out of their arm, they're turning blue, you take naloxone nasal spray and spray it in their nose, or the FZO needle and you inject it in their leg, or you give them Cloxato or one of the other drugs. EMTs will give it IV. You save their life. So if you put this drug in with the buprenorphine and then chop it up and draw it into a needle and shoot it into your arm, you're shooting Narcan into your arm, and it makes you pill sick. So the buprenorphine component, by the way, the naloxone is not absorbed under the tongue. So you get almost zero naloxone levels in your body when you put it under your tongue. The buprenorphine sits sideways in these receptors. It fits in that receptor really, really tight. It's so tight that if you were to do an oxy, or even if you were to do heroin, it can't get in there because the buprenorphine binds so tight. And that Suboxone, that buprenorphine, sends a signal to your body and your brain that you feel okay. You don't get pill sick, you don't chill, you don't shake, but at the same time, you don't really get high. Addicts will tell you, I don't take Suboxone to get high. I take Suboxone to feel normal. If you do 3 Suboxone a day, or 3 Subutex a day, Subutex is buprenorphine by itself, by the way, without the naloxone in it. If you do 3 a day, it fills up 97% of those receptors and keeps them filled for 30 hours. That's a long time. That means if you take your medicine on a regular basis and all of a sudden you stop, you don't get pill sick tomorrow. You don't get pill sick until late afternoon, the day after tomorrow. It takes that long for the medicine to wash out of your system. If you do 2 a day, it'll fill up 94% of the receptors. If you do 1 a day, it'll fill up 86. If you do a half a day, it'll fill up 70%. And if you just do a quarter, 2 milligrams of buprenorphine a day, you're still getting a 64% saturation. This tells you several things. Number 1, you can take 5 Suboxone all at the same time. It's really not any different than doing 2 or even 1. Doesn't get you higher. It doesn't last longer. It's no better. So taking a lot of the medicine doesn't help you, which is really, really unusual. Because for drug addicts, more is always better. Too much is never enough. And that's always true, except with buprenorphine, except with Suboxone. It also shows that when you're ready, you can start to taper and get down to lower and lower doses of buprenorphine, and you won't get pill sick. It won't put you into narcotics withdrawal. Now, if you're on 3 a day and you drop to a half, you're probably going to feel withdrawal. But if you're on 3 a day and you work down to 2 and then down to 1 and down half, and it is possible to taper completely off of Suboxone. Only very, very special circumstances. You have to have a lot of things in place. You have to have a good, stable home with nobody actively using around you. You have to have good employment, good finances, everything stable there. You have to have some sort of program of recovery, whether that's a 12-step program or whether that's a faith-based program or a smart recovery program. You have to have some sort of program of recovery for this to work. And you have to have some sort of spiritual program. Now, if you have all of these pieces in place, there's a chance that you can come completely off of Suboxone. But I don't recommend anybody try to come off until they have an adequate program. And the reason that is because drug addicts, you don't have a drug problem. You don't have an alcohol problem. You never did. You got a brain problem. Your brain's broken, like me. And what you need more than anything else is to be brainwashed. But not by me. No. You have to be brainwashed by yourself. And that's why 12-step meetings work. When you go to meetings on a regular basis, whether it's AA or NA or Celebrate Recovery or church, if you do the meetings every day, that process literally reprograms and rewires your brain. It's called neural repatterning. We have a lot more to say that in other videos. A lot more to say about that in other videos. But that process of neural repatterning changes the way you think, right? Because we live in a universal field of intention. We live in a powerful force. Call it God, call it love, call it what you like. But your thoughts create your intentions. Your intentions create your reality. You create your reality based on what you think. I mean, for example, I didn't just magically pop up here, right? We had to actually think about it. Okay, we're going to do filming on Friday and we're going to try to have everything together, and Tom's going to be there with his shirt, and we have to have the cameras and the cameraman, and everything had to be right. And so people thought about that. They thought about that all week. And they intended on getting here, and they did. So the thought created the intention created the reality. This reality is happening because somebody thought about it. And the same thing happens inside your brain. If you believe that something is going to change the way you think about how you do drugs, how you view drugs, reframing how you think about drinking and doing drugs, that's why 12-step meetings work. And eventually you get to the place where you've been to so many meetings that you can say things like, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. And you can say, who is an addict? Well, most of us don't have to think twice about this question. We know our whole life was centered in drugs in one form or another, the finding and using and finding ways and means to get more. We live to use and use to live. Very simply, an addict is a man or a woman whose life is controlled by drugs. We are people in the grips of a continuing and progressive illness whose ends are always the same: jails, institutions, and death. Oh my. I didn't sit down and memorize stuff to impress you. I've been to so many meetings. Tell you what, there is nothing that will screw up your using more than a head full of recovery. And you can do that with the Bible, and you can do that with other readings as well. Reprogramming, rewiring. So looking back at the Suboxone, how to take it, There's an appropriate way to take it. We have a separate video for that. But let's talk about this idea of half-life. Why is it that you don't get pill sick if you take it on a regular basis? Let me turn the board over and I'll show you about this. Thanks for joining us. This is Dr. Tom. If you like this content, please hit like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, share, and check out the suggested videos if you would on the way out. Thanks again.